Welcome to Offbeat, the light side of law enforcement, part of the Treehouse Podcast Network. Thanks for listening today. I'm your host, retired Officer Steve Rutherford. Co-host for today, Detective Curtis Hadley.
Glad to be here, guys.
And we are joined by two guests today. We've got one guest joining us in studio. We've got retired Officer Russell Johnson.
Good to be here.
And joining us remotely from the state of Missouri, we've got retired Officer Tye Bell.
Good morning, man.
How are you doing, Tye?
I'm doing good.
Outstanding. Now, Russell, you are retired. How long were you an officer?
30 years, Fort Worth PD.
Good deal. So you got 30 in all at the same agency?
Yeah. Only one I ever knew to work for.
Yeah, Fort Worth's a good agency.
Yes.
And Tye, what about you? You're retired as well. How many years do you get in?
I got 30 total years in.
All right. And where did you work?
I worked at Saginaw for 2 years in Richland Hills. I got retired from there, and then I worked at the sheriff's office the last 3 years.
Okay, and then moved to Missouri in retirement?
Yes.
All right. Now I do have a question for you. You said you worked for Richland Hills.
Correct.
Okay, and in all the agencies you mentioned are in the North Texas area, but you worked for Richland Hills. There's a North Richland Hills. How come there's not a South Richland Hills?
That's funny because my mom asked me where Richland Hills was, and I told her it's just south of North Richland Hills.
Yeah. So it seems
yeah.
like you guys should have adopted the south part to that, so you're either north side or south side.
That would be adopting the east side of Fort Worth, and that's a no-go.
Curtis, any comments on the east side of Fort Worth? No?
No, I mean, I don't think Richland Hill's even big enough to have a south side. I think they just have a north side. And then you have that little part in the middle that it didn't know what to call it. So
hey, drop the north and, hey, this is Richland Hills. Now, Tye, at your time here in the various agencies you were with in North Texas, what kind of opportunities did you have at your agencies?
Well, at Richland Hills, I did everything. Small agency, many hats. I was a PIO, a detective, a sergeant, patrol, all that. And then at my last gig at Tarrant County, I did extradition trips.
Okay, so going out and grabbing prisoners and hauling them around, that kind of thing?
Yep. We did the exact same thing as the U.S. Marshals, except we stay in the U.S.
Okay. Now, Russell, what about you? What kind of opportunities did you have over at Fort Worth during your career?
Really, the majority of mine was all in either plainclothes or undercover. A total of 30 years, I worked 5 years in uniform, 15 years in narcotics, 4 as an officer, and 11 as a sergeant. And then was over some plainclothes units after that where, I don't know, a captain will come to you and say, hey, I've got this problem and I really need for you to solve it.
Of course.
And just grab some guys and go solve it. And so that's kind of what I did. Now, during that whole tenure, for about 24 years, I taught all of the arrest, search, and seizure to Fort Worth, all the search warrant writing classes, the recruits, any in-service we had. Also taught all of the narcotics and dope to Fort Worth PD for about 25 years.
So really, Fort Worth PD wouldn't be what it is today without you, it sounds like.
If you want to say that, I can tell you, I still get calls from both officers and from one of the main attorneys that defends officers when they're in trouble and it's a search and seizure issue. Then they'll call and we'll have a discussion about, whether they can get their job back or not.
No. Do you get compensated for your advice?
Oh, no. It's free, Steve.
Wow.
It's free.
Wow. Yeah,
I'm just happy to help.
And that's also why Russ he was my instructor in the academy. So
you're responsible for Curtis?
Not all of him.
No, just the good parts.
Yeah.
Just the good parts.
Just where he does his job according to law.
I liked how you kind of edged out on that. A little disclaimer, no. Anything Curtis does right, you'll take.
Yeah. If I do it wrong, it's like, I don't even know that guy.
Yeah, never seen him before.
Yeah.
Now, Russell and Tye, I understand you guys know each other. And how did you guys meet?
Go ahead, Tye.
I was working at Billy Bob's, and Russell was working at Northside Patrol. So anytime we needed to call an officer for someone that was misbehaving in the world famous nightclub, Russell came often, and we became good friends from there.
Yeah. So you used to work out there at Billy Bob's. Russell was your officer that you always called for problems, and you got to know him really well because you had that many problems out there?
Well, Russell wasn't the only one, but he's one of the few that I became close friends with. But yeah, there was nightly calls for something always going on.
Alcohol cowboys, mix the two.
You
got some issues.
You don't become the largest honky tonk in Texas without a few problems.
Right.
Yeah.
Any good stories from those days?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so
the statute of limitations is up, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we had a policy with Fort Worth that if somebody wanted to ride in, the ride-in program where you get to go and see what cops do, was once every 6 months. And we just constantly violated that with Tye because he would ride in, I'm going to guess, average probably 3 times a month, sometimes twice a week. He rode in all the time. But hey, our lieutenant was good with it because he was a good friend of ours and he knew Tye, and we got along really well. So Tye would call us. He wouldn't just call 911. He would call me on cell phone. We had cell phones back then. He would call me on. Actually, it was a bag phone, I think. I don't remember. But he would call me and my partner and I, because at the time on midnights I was working in Butler Housing Projects, so we always had 2 to a car for officer safety. And he called this one night and said, "Hey, you think you and Brad can swing by here and help me out?" I said, "Sure. What do you need? You got some drunk or something?" He goes, No, you're just gonna have to see this one."
that bad.
And so we made it up there and we met Tye outside of his office and we said, "Hey, what's going on?" And correct me if I'm wrong, Tye. And he said, "Well, I've got a drunk lady inside, but she took all her clothes off and she's naked." We said, "Okay."
And where's she at?
She's in Tye's office with the door shut, and Tye's meeting with us outside of his office. So quickly, Brad and I, after we got through chuckling, I'm going through my head thinking, is there an actual offense here that we can put our hands on her, or do we want to put our hands on her? So Tye opens up the door, and Tye, I'm a little fuzzy on what happened next.
Well, you left out a few key points. First, she was
Okay.
she was hot as fish grease. She had been to the club earlier that night, and I had talked to her and spoke with her a little bit, and then she went on down to the stockyards, and she came back, and I was in the back in the vault counting money, and one of the security guys came in and said, "Mr. Bell," and I knew something was wrong when he called me Mr. Bell. He goes, "Sir, there's a naked lady in your office." I went, "What?" So I went in there, and sure enough, it's the hot chick from earlier, and she was ready to roll.
There's not an offense there.
No, and my good friend
public PI at best.
Russell and Brad, one's telling me not to do anything with her, and one's telling me to go. So it was like Jekyll and Hyde.
I'm saying, Tye, you need to stay as far away from that as you can get.
I'm assuming you guys were able to remove her from the office.
Yeah, we got it all taken care of.
Yeah, she put her clothes back on and was escorted out.
Did she have an explanation, or was she just?
She was a big fan of Tye Bell. That's the explanation.
Yeah. How is your
Wow.
wife?
Oh, wow.
I don't believe Tye was married at that point.
I was not.
Hey, nor was I. Brad was, but I wasn't.
Oh, and actually, Ty, you had shared with me that over, and you mentioned it a few moments ago, when you worked in Richland Hills, you were the public information officer as well as one of your duties?
Yes. Then, as far as PIO, I was one of the original founders of the North Texas PIO group.
Okay, which I ended up joining up, I don't know, several years back or whatever.
Which
I
was
I
great
was
for
the-
context, because that I knew at least one person in every police department in North Texas. So that came in handy numerous times.
I was the guy on the roster that never reached out to anybody. So,
Right.
Okay. Now, Ty, you had mentioned to me that you actually had a really scary moment at work. Wait, what was
Yeah.
one of the scariest moments there that you had at work?
This was in the fall, and it was a pretty chilly night, close to Halloween. And I'm just cruising through the neighborhood. It's one of the nights where there just wasn't anything going on. And I rounded this dark curve that wasn't lit by any streetlights or anything, and there sat a hearse parked in the street. And I looked at that and I thought, this has all the makings of Russell or some of my good friends trying to pull a nice prank on me. So I call out on this car and I walk up to the hearse, and of course you can't see anything in the back until I get to the driver's door. And I was relieved to see that there was no casket or body or anything. All that was in the car was a toolbox. So I walked on around the corner of the car, and I got back, and I was standing in the grass between my patrol car and this hearse. And they called me on the radio to give me my return on the license plate. And when I reached over to my left shoulder to say, go ahead, there was a llama,
What?
like 6 inches from my microphone.
As in
I
Dolly?
was, no, I was unaware that llamas could scream. I knew that they could spit, but I received both screaming and spitting, and I'm not sure what the llama says because I screamed also. That was one of the scariest deals for me.
What do you think the llama thought?
I have no idea.
The llama's just there to check out the hearse.
Yeah,
and
he's like-
and
Yeah.
there's a cop up there and has to scare him.
I had
He
no
was in
idea
the
we
hearse,
even
huh?
had a llama in the Richland Hills, but yep,
Yeah.
that was quite a deal.
Yeah, a llama
Wow.
actually in your city. And Richland Hills, just so our listeners know, if you're not familiar with Richland Hills, you're not out in the
Country.
you're not out in the country. You're a suburb in the middle of a major metropolitan area.
Did it just run off, or did it stick around?
I left.
Oh, you left. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Poor
And it
llama.
turns out
Now he's
years
left
later-
all alone.
I'm just kind of
Turns
wondering
out
if it was
years-
a llama or an alpaca. You know, because you never
Oh,
know.
it was a llama.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Years
okay.
later, I discovered that the lady that lived there was dating a mortician from the East Texas area. So he was there visiting that night and parked his car on the street.
And brought his llama with him.
Yeah, he just carries his
No,
llama.
the llama belonged to the lady that lived there. I never heard it walk up or anything. It just, I turned around and all of a sudden there's a llama head.
So he drove the hearse as his personal ride.
He did. I
Yeah,
guess
I mean,
if,
you
you
gotta
own
have
a,
something to drive.
Okay.
if you own a funeral home, I guess that's a perk. I don't know.
Ah,
It's a tax write off. It's a business expense at that point. So
it's weird.
And maybe
It's
he
weird,
was picking
Curtis.
up. Maybe he was making a pickup the next day or something. I had no idea.
the weird part of this is she was dating a mortician. Okay,
Right.
those guys
Yeah.
they have a very specific job, and we're happy what they do. But you've never met one. You're like, you don't walk away from meeting a mortician going, I'd have a beer with that guy.
Yeah.
You don't.
Great dude.
And I thought the weird part was the guy's dating a lady who's got a llama and lives in.
That was probably a drawing point for him. You meet a lady at a bar that says she's a llama, you need to go home with that girl
Yeah.
if you're not married.
You want to leave with me? I got a llama at the house I'd like to show you.
I'll pack your stuff.
Oh.
Sorry.
That was wrong.
You can
That was
Yeah.
wrong.
That was awful.
Yeah, yeah. Nee. All right. Russell, you mentioned that you did some narcotic stuff and stuff like that with Fort Worth. So I can imagine you guys served warrants.
All the time.
Okay. Ever run into any issues with serving warrants?
Oh, there's several. I don't think we really have time in a day. There's a couple. Early in my career, I think I got into narcotics in 1993, and so I was pretty fresh into narcotics and kind of learning my way around. But we had partners, and my partner and I were fairly new. Well, there was this. Oh, he was one of the studs in narcotics at the time, but that's only because he had really good CIs, and a good CI will make or break you as a narcotics officer. So he had some really, really good informants, and he would turn and burn, and he would write these warrants, and anyway, they always ended up with good hits. But on this one particular occasion, he came back in the office, and we were fixing to go out and make some buys. He goes, "Hey, I need everybody. We need to run a warrant real quick. They've got multiple kilos in this house, and they're supposed to be moving it in the next 8 hours, something like that. Doesn't matter, whatever." So they burned the warrant real quick. So my partner and I, because we were fairly new, I mean, we hadn't been over narcotics maybe 2 months, and we hit the house. And back then, we didn't have to have SWAT hit every house. The only time we had to have SWAT hit a house is if it was a high risk, lots of guns. So back then, we ran a lot of our own warrants, right?
Good deal.
Now, were we as prepared as SWAT to run a warrant? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Okay. As a matter of fact, this is a side story, but we got in trouble one day when a deputy chief happened to hear he was on the east side of Fort Worth for whatever reason, and I was already a sergeant by then. But he heard that we were running a warrant. He wanted to come by and check on us after we ran the warrant. So we came by, and he found out that some of my guys, we ran the warrant in shorts and flip-flops with a gun belt on. He was none too happy. So from that point on, it pretty much SWAT ran all of our warrants. Okay, anyway, back to the story. And so they hit this house. They go in. We go in the living room. Everybody's in there. We see this family, and I'm thinking, wow, this is not a bad house, really, for the north side of Fort Worth. And pretty soon, he and the sergeant come back to the living room, and they kind of gather everybody around, and they go, "This is the wrong house."
Planning for the future is challenging, and getting where you want to go in life requires strategies built around your unique financial needs. Alexander Financial Management is here to help you reach your goals. As fiduciaries, Alexander Financial Management will pursue the best solutions for you, no exception. While their decades of experience and service are available to everyone, Alexander Financial especially wants to help first responders and their families. The founder is a former police officer, and the executive team includes a retired fire captain and a retired police officer. Their extensive background in public service gives a deep understanding of the public retirement systems of Texas. So for retirement planning, investment strategies, life insurance, and estate planning, Alexander Financial Management has your back, so you can look forward. Get more info at alexfm.com. That's alexfm.com. Investment advisory services offered through Transcend LLC, a registered investment advisor. TE3 and Alexander Financial are not affiliated entities. Insurance products and services are not offered through TE3, but are offered and sold through individually licensed and appointed agents.
Welcome back to Offbeat, the light side of law enforcement. I'm your host, retired officer Steve Rutherford. Co-host for today, Detective Curtis Hadley.
Great to be here.
We're joined by two guests. We're joined in studio by retired officer Russell Johnson.
Yep.
And joining us remotely from the state of Missouri, we've got retired officer Tye Bell. Now, this segment is sponsored by Alexander Financial Management. If you have questions about retirement planning, investment strategies, life insurance, or estate planning, check out Alexander Financial Management at alexfm.com. So, Tye, you worked in Richland Hills, and Richland Hills borders the city of Fort Worth, correct?
Yes.
All right, so you do probably did a lot of traffic enforcement and stuff like that. And, I understand there can be some very popular clothing sales in Fort Worth that people try to get out to.
There is. I was running a radar on 121, which goes directly into downtown Fort Worth. And this is about mid-morning one day. And this car goes flying by. I didn't go after any cars unless they were doing 80 miles an hour or better. So I know she was over 80. So I get the car stopped and I walk up, do my contact, and this lady tells me that this lady's probably late 80s, tells me that she's on her way downtown Fort Worth for a shoe sale.
So she's a 80-year-old lady doing 80 miles an hour trying to get to the shoe sale.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
So I was feeling nice that day, a rare occasion, but I decided to not give the lady a ticket, and I asked her if she could maybe slow it down to around 70, and she assured me that she would. So no problem. About a week later, I'm working the same radar spot, and this car goes by. I go after it, and as I'm calling out on it, I realize that looks like the car I stopped last week. And I walked up, and the little lady's driving, and I said, "Ma'am," introduced myself, and I said, "Is there any emergency?" And she said, "I'm on my way downtown to Fort Worth for a shoe set." Well, that struck something with me, and I guess we would call it clue that something isn't right, because I knew there wouldn't be 2 shoe sales in 2 weeks. So we got to digging around, and this lady was a nursing home resident, and she was going behind the counter where the nurses put their purses, and she was getting the keys to this particular car. And we don't know how many times she had been driving, but the nurse that owned the car had mentioned that she thought somebody was siphoning her gas because she was losing gas quite often.
Oh,
Okay, so you stopped this lady driving this car, and come to find out the car did not belong to her. It was that she lived in a nursing home, and she was taking one of the nurses' cars and driving to Fort Worth, and
Yes.
the nurse never knew her car was gone?
No, not until that day.
Wow. So did you debunk the whole shoe sale theory, or was there really a shoe sale going on?
There was not a shoe sale, and the nursing home changed their policies and procedures about securing car keys.
And nobody knew this lady was missing from the nursing home?
Nobody had a clue. It took us quite a while to figure out what nursing home she was from. I mean, it was a couple-hour ordeal, but
So did you just take her back, Tye? Did you just take her back to the nursing home, or did you actually?
No, they actually
unauthorized use of a motor vehicle.
The nursing home came to get her and pick up the car as well.
Okay, once you figured out, I would have told her, hey, listen, we'll give you another warning. You're free to go, and then just follow her and see where she goes to, because she's taking the car back. She would have taken you back to it.
that's the slick part, is that she would take it back and be able to put the keys back before they even knew it. All they could figure out is that the gas was missing. That's the slick part of it.
80-year-old joyride.
Yeah.
I just always wondered how many times she had done that.
Yeah, that's a new gangster granny right there.
Mm-hmm. She's old school.
Referring back to episode 21, if you haven't listened, check it out. Now, Russell, whenever you got into law enforcement, you kind of didn't really know what to expect. You thought you did, but your first day was very adventurous.
Yes, I was. We'll call it baptism by fire. So I got cut loose from the academy, and then you have to do 3 months of field training. At that time, you did 1 month on each shift. So my first month was on evening shift. So we started at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and very first call off the bat, I can't even understand the radio. I'm so excited. My uniform's brand new. My shoes are still shiny at this point.
Oh, you're just a baby.
I know, just a baby. And we hear this officer come over the radio, and apparently he had made a traffic stop, and we were probably, I don't know, 5 minutes from where his location was. And he's frantic on the radio, closes the channel, and says, "Hey, my police car just got stolen."
Oh.
So we pull up on the scene, and what had happened was he stopped a traffic, and we don't turn our cars off when you stop or pull over a car. They may take off, and you got to take it. Doesn't matter. And while he was out conversing with the driver of that car, there was an individual who had been huffing paint and decided he was tired of walking, so he just hopped in the police car and was going to drive wherever he was going to drive. So my training officer is driving. I'm in the front seat, and he's going, "Okay, when we get there, this is what we're going to kind of do, and you just follow me."
And you guys are chasing another.
We're chasing another police car.
And he was on a traffic stop, so he had his overhead lights.
Absolutely. So, so the lights and sirens are on the car that we're chasing, and then we're chasing him. And we get there, and I don't even think. We get there, and I see that the front door is open, and we see this body kind of ducked behind a house. So I just get out of the car, and I tear ass, and I'm chasing him. And as I'm chasing him, I'm finding a shirt, an overshirt, a pair of pants.
Okay, at that point in time, I'd be like, "Oh, maybe he got away."
Yeah, no.
Because
No, my first day.
Oh, that's true.
No,
That's true.
you're cheetah then.
Oh, yeah, my first day. So then I see a body kind of under a bush, and I go over there, and I go, "Oh, I wonder if this is him." But I look at him, he's got gold paint all over his face. I'm thinking, This is our dude. So I latch onto him. I put handcuffs on him. I gather his clothes because he's in a pair of shorts. He had shorts on under his jeans. And I drag him back up to the training officer, and I go, "Well, here he is. What do we do with him?" He goes, "I don't know. You're a rookie. You're a cop. This is now your sheet. What are you going to do?" I said, "Well, we're going to put him in jail for whatever we can think of later. But how do you put him in jail for stealing a police car? Is it we eventually put him in jail for stealing the police car, and figured out that it was because he was huffing paint."
So who's the complainant? Who's the victim? City of Fort Worth?
My guess is I think I put the city of Fort Worth for the complainant, because it's not the officer. He's not in the car. And it's not his car.
Or maybe the victim's the city of Fort Worth. The complainant could be the officer.
It could be.
Well, you'd be the complainant.
What about the suspect? He pays taxes.
Yeah. I
Could
don't
be.
know.
That's partially his car.
I don't know. I don't know. He went to jail.
But so your first day on the job, you were out there, car chase, foot chase. But as you went along in your career, you got chased yourself.
I did. I did, and it really wasn't my fault.
That's how all stories
I know.
start.
The teacher becomes
yeah.
the teacher becomes the student
Hey,
at this point.
That's what I said at Joy Bob's.
Yeah. Hey, y'all, watch this. I was working the projects with my partner. My first partner, his name was Mike, and he was an old dude, right? And he was crusty. He had been police a long time, and I was a rookie, and I was just lapping up the knowledge that he would give. Of course, he smoked probably, I don't know, a pack a day. And back then, you could smoke in police cars. So he was smoking a pack a day, and if we ever had to chase somebody, he'd just pull up to a slow roll, let me bail out and chase, and he'd just drive the car around until I caught him, and then he would get out, put a cigarette out, and go over and lay his hands on him to arrest him. If you know what that was like back in the early 90s. And
Sounds like a seasoned police officer.
Yes.
That's a veteran.
Okay. So we were pretty much dedicated to the projects because there was so much crime that we weren't allowed to take calls outside of the projects. Well, it just so happened that a call went out. The projects were really, really slow. It was like 3:00 in the morning. And it was about a naked lady at this gas station at the corner of North Riverside and Sylvania. So we said, well, we'll take it. So we went over there, and this gas station, they were putting in new gas pumps. So there's a huge hole in the ground with ribbon around it, safety first. And there she was. And
In the hole?
No, she was just standing there. And I looked at Mike, and he looked at me, and he goes, what do you think we ought to do? I go, is she committing an offense? He goes, oh, I think we ought to talk to her at bare minimum and find out what's wrong with her. I said, oh, I'll buy that. I'll buy it. He set me up the whole time. And we get out, and she's talking to the side of the building, right? She is whacked out. She's a meth head, and she is whacked out on meth. And just picture in your mind first what a meth head looks like.
Naked.
And then picture them naked.
Oh, gosh.
Okay? Not a pleasant sight.
No.
Not the lady that was in Ty's office.
No.
I was fixing to make that disclaimer.
No.
Yeah, total opposite.
Not at all. Not at all. So we get out, and I start trying to talk to her, and she's not doing anything. I looked at Mike, and he puts a cigarette out, and he goes, hey, this officer likes you. And I looked at him. I said, what are you doing? And I was on one side of this. The hole was probably 10 feet long by 5 feet wide because they're putting in new gas pumps. And she looks at me, and she says, oh, my God, honey, come here. I go, no, ma'am, you just stay right there. Of course, I'm still a rookie. You just stay right there. And she starts running over to my side of the hole. So rather than standing there and going,
she wanted to get a little rustle,
she
didn't
did.
she?
She
Okay.
did because, and instead of staying there and doing what I should have done, I didn't know what to do. So I started running.
You panicked.
I started running, and we're running around this hole. And about this time, a couple more officers show up, and they're in the car, and they're like, what in the hell is going on? And Mike's there laughing. He's just laughing. He goes, y'all come over here. And I kept running around and running around. I probably did, 10 laps around this hole with this naked lady chasing me. Finally, she got tired. And I went over to the patrol car, and I said, and the other officers were there, and he was in the academy with me. So he had been on the streets the same amount of time I had. I just high-fived him and tagged him. I go, hey, dude, you're it. Go do something with her because she's been chasing me now for about 10 trips around this hole. And finally, they took her into custody, and they just took her over to, got her a T-shirt or something to put on, and took her over and dumped her off at the night shelter for being intoxicated.
Yeah.
And she just spent the night over at the night shelter. So
Was she fast?
well, not as fast as I was. Back in the day, I could scoot.
Thank God you were faster than she was. What was about to happen?
Yeah.
If she'd have caught me? It was awful.
This is long before the taping of cops was invented.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Thank
That
goodness.
damn sure been on cops.
Chased by a suspect. I mean,
Yeah.
chased by a suspicious person.
Chased around a meth hole.
It was not one of my better days as an officer.
So I mean, to elaborate, we could say that the meth addict chased him around the hole, and
Yeah.
Oh my God.
wow,
Talking about getting sucked down the hole.
yeah. I'm still curious what would have happened had she caught him. That's
Yeah, I don't know, and I still don't think about that to this day.
all right. And Curtis said you're not going to break in with. So how is your wife on this one? Are
No,
you?
not this one. No. His cousin's well, though.
Oh, all right. Ty, you like to play pranks on fellow officers, correct?
Oh, man.
I'm guilty of pulling a couple of prank shifts.
Well, let's have one.
At the time, there was one gas station that was open all night in Richland Hills, so that's where we always filled up our units, before we go in for briefing.
Wait a minute. Was there a Fort Worth officer there being chased by a meth head?
No.
Okay.
No, they had gas pumps.
Not near the shenanigans in Richland Hills as there is Fort Worth.
Go ahead.
So my buddy and I are fueling up at the same time, and the training officer, supervisor, and his new rookie, they had already left and gone to the station. Well, there was a fuel hose, from the pump that had been pulled off of the pump by someone else. So we took that hose to the station and we put it in their patrol car. Then we went inside and said, "Hey, did y'all forget something at the gas station?" And they were like, "Oh no." I said, you better go out and look at your car. So they go out there.
You put the hose in the gas tank.
Yeah, in the gas tank.
Okay.
Like they drove off with it.
I got you.
So the rookie, he was like, oh my, you could just see the horror on his face. And on the training officer, you could just see he was totally confused. He said, I think I would have heard that. I don't understand how this happened. I said, I don't know, but they want their hose back. So that was a pretty good one.
Oh, and you'd be surprised on those. They have those safety disconnects on it, so it shuts down the pump. But I had an officer once. He was opposite me. We were both gassing up our squads at the same time, and yeah, he was teasing another rookie, this and that, and long story short, he drove off from the gas pump at a high rate of speed with the nozzle still in his tank, and you'd be surprised. Those hoses will stretch out to 20 feet before they pop.
Oh, really? Wow. I know that.
Yeah, and that was at the end of our shift. So the rest of us went home, and he was in there typing out "Dear Chief," many moons since last we spoke, and now, okay, all right, Russell, tell our listeners about the time that you encountered something strange.
Well, we didn't really encounter something strange. We were again on midnights on North Side, and we had a sergeant that was, he on occasion he was a prankster, but he was a good sergeant. So he called us and said, "Hey, why don't y'all come over here to this address? I've got this vacant house here, and I need some help." We said, "Okay." So we drove over there, and so there's three of us, and we go in. He goes, "Hey, over there in that corner, there's a possum." We said, "Okay." He goes, "Where is this?" The female officer that worked on midnights was a very good officer. She was also in my academy class. Deathly afraid of snakes, animals, stuff like that. He goes, "Where is she on call?" And we looked it up, and we told him, and it wasn't an important call. He goes, "Okay, y'all get on the horn with her and have her meet y'all over here at this house where we're at." Okay. So we did, and we called her over. And while we're talking to her, the sergeant, before we made the call, we surrounded this possum. And I don't know if you've ever been around a possum, whoever, but they can be vicious.
Oh, yeah.
If you corner them. So this sergeant snatched it up by the tail and was holding it, and it was wiggling back and forth, back and forth. So he goes behind the house, and this female officer shows up. So he comes around the front of the house while she's in talking to us, and we're talking about, "Oh, we need to search this. We heard a noise, blah, blah, blah." And he opens up the back door of the patrol car and dumps that possum in the back of her patrol car. Now, at the time, we had metal behind the seats. We didn't have glass. We didn't have anything else. So the possum's in the back seat, right? And so afterwards, he just shags. He leaves. And so we get done searching the house, and then we're gonna go about our business. So we just drive off, and we don't pay her any mind. And she drives around. I'm gonna guess probably an hour.
Oh.
And she hears something in her back seat. She's like, "Oh my God, what's in my back seat? It sounds awful. I'm hitting something, whatever." And she just pulls over, and she opens this back door, and here's this possum in her back seat, and it just bolts for the door and goes right past her. And you can only imagine, when she called us, the expletives that were coming out of her mouth at us. And we said, "Hey, it was Sergeant that did it. We didn't do it."
I'm pretty sure Little P came out when that thing jumped out.
Oh my God. We were
She
MF.
should be glad it wasn't a llama.
I was going to say, thank God it wasn't a llama.
Let's talk to Daniel Cook now from Cook DFW Roofing and Restoration. 833 Cook DFW is the phone number. The website is cookdfw.com. Daniel, you offer a free roof inspection, correct?
That's correct, Steve.
And how often should someone get their roof inspected?
Well, I mean, the best way of protecting your property is that you need to have somebody come out and look at your roof and everything pertaining to your property at least once a year. By doing that, you're going to catch a lot of things that could go wrong on your property. And when I say that, you think about our extreme climate here. We go from 15, 20 degrees, sometimes 0, like we did a few years ago, all the way up to 110, 112. And so when you have that huge temperature swings, your property takes a beating. And then even if you don't have, let's say, a big hailstorm, well, over time, you're still going to have a lot of water intrusion possibly into your wood, areas around your foundation. You know, your windows might have some gaps around them. So, I mean, it's a full property inspection is what you need to have. Our current clients, we come out and do that annually for them. We don't do just a roof inspection. That is a critical component, and that is your most important item on your home. But we do more than that. And so that's why we're a full service general contracting company. We check out your whole property. We'd let you know when we see something that's going to cause you problems down the road.
Give Daniel a call at Cook DFW Roofing and Restoration for any of those roofing, remodeling, or restoration needs. The number is 833-COOK-DFW. The website is cookdfw.com. Be sure to ask about their free first responder upgrade. Welcome back to Offbeat, the light side of law enforcement. We got 2 guests joining us today. In studio, we have retired Officer Russell Johnson.
Present.
And joining us remotely from the state of Missouri, we've got retired Officer Tye Bell. Now, Russell, you mentioned you did you served a lot of warrants.
Lots.
And I can only imagine you've seen some things in regards to those. Well, what was one of the most surprising things you ever saw while serving a warrant?
Okay, so we had run a high-risk warrant, meaning that it was all narcotics. So I was a sergeant. My officer's written the warrant. So basically, SWAT executes the warrant, secures the house, and then gets on the radio and says, hey, it's all clear. Come on in. So we go on in, and we look to see if there's anybody they secured. But they pretty much gather their stuff, and while we're in the house doing our thing, they're loading up, and they're going back to the office.
So they've already cleared the whole house. There's nobody in there.
They clear the whole house before we ever come in. That's just, that's what they do. That's their job.
Yeah.
They clear the whole house, so now we're inside, and I'm splitting up the house for who's going to search where, blah, blah, blah. We already know who evidence custodian is, doing the sergeant thing. And so I'm walking around the house like I normally would, because I lose my focus pretty quick, so I can't just search a room by myself. I have to kind of just help everybody out, and
That's what sergeants do.
Well, and I did that pretty well. Anyway, so one of the guys is gonna search. We always search the attic for dope. I mean, come on,
It's a good place.
So he goes up in the attic in the hallway. The steps come down. They were already down because SWAT had cleared the attic. Okay. Everybody follow me so far? Okay. House is clear.
Clear.
So my narco goes up there, and he's just going to search it. So, we may or may not have a gun on us anyway while we're in the house, because who knows?
But because it's safe.
It's because it's safe.
It's been
cleared.
So he goes up there. He's got a flashlight, and we hear this yelling, "Hey, you, stop! Stop!" We're like, what the hell? And I'm in the living room, and I'm looking towards the hallway, and all of a sudden, half a body falls through the ceiling. And I said, hey, officer, we'll call him John. I said, John, is that you? He goes, no, that's bad guy. That's bad guy.
That's a knucklehead.
So I look at him, and this dude is stuck waist up in the attic, waist down in the living room. I said, nobody touch him. No, nobody touch him. I'm on the horn, and I call the SWAT sergeant. I go, hey, good friend of mine. I said, hey, did y'all clear this house? He goes, yeah. And we had our city cell phones were iPhones. So I was actually on a FaceTime with him. I said, hey, did y'all clear this house? He goes, yeah. Yeah, we cleared everything good. Why? What do you got? I go, I don't know. Hang on a minute. Let me turn my camera around.
Nice.
I turned it around and I showed him through the ceiling. He goes, who's that? I go, that was the dude that was hiding in the attic when you cleared it. So I said, what do you want me to do? What do you want to do? He goes, oh my God, we're going to have a meeting. Y'all don't leave that house. Y'all don't leave. When you're done searching, don't leave till we get back. I said, okay. So we hung up on the phone and the guy standing beside me. He go, what, how are we going to get this guy out of the ceiling? I go, he's already halfway there. Give him a tug. And we just pulled him through the ceiling, arrested him, took the dope. He was on him. SWAT came back. And I bet they were at that house for an hour having to do entry training again and again and clearing the house.
I bet.
So,
Did he live there?
oh, yeah, he lived there.
Oh,
Now it's just where you hung out.
Yeah. It's just where he slept in the attic. He just slept in the attic. That's all he did.
I thought maybe you got him for criminal mischief, tearing somebody's ceiling up.
No, we just pulled him through the ceiling.
All right, guys, that's what we got for today's show. Russell and Ty, thank you both for joining us today. We appreciate you guys. If you have not been to the website yet, check it out. Offbeatcopshow.com. Again, that's offbeatcopshow.com. You can listen to all episodes there on the website, as well as subscribe to the email list. If you're an officer and you've got a funny story you'd like to come on the show and share with our listeners, send us an email, offbeatcopshow@gmail.com. Again, that's offbeatcopshow@gmail.com. Make sure you check us out on Facebook and Instagram. Give us a like, share, follow, all that good stuff. Guys, until next time, stay safe and watch each other 6.